And so now I will just turn over. I think, Julie, you're going to be the first speaker on this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Hannah, and thank you very much to Phil Sharp for a wonderful preface for what we wanted to just contextualize here. I'm a teacher, and so you can never go forward without your text in hand. So just to let you know what we're talking about here, if you open your book up to the tab where it says Background Materials, you will find the preliminary document that Dave Roessner and I put together. We did this in service of the word that is often used is support, in service of getting out of the definitional muddle that people often get trapped in. So it's a set of key terminology and concepts very much based in the literature on interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, and meant to create a bridge, not to impose definitions, but to argue that there are consensus definitions and inform the process of what we're doing these 2 days with that. So very much in service, and we vetted it preliminarily with the committee that is working for the Convergence and Health Initiative. So we have presented a number of different definitions here and created a chart that we're going to talk about just a little bit more. The most important thing to realize is that we wanted to show not only how convergence, trans, inter, multidisciplinary differ from disciplines, but how they differ from themselves, painting a spectrum of integration. This, I would also emphasize, is itself an interdisciplinary endeavor, because the research that has led to understanding these different kinds of integration comes from not only social sciences, also humanities, a great deal from organizational theory, the study of higher education, and science, technology, and society. So Dave's going to embellish a bit on exactly what happens in the details.
No, pardon us, we're going to jump up and down here, but it won't take long. It'll take us as long to change places as it will to give our individual spiels here. The second point that we'd like to make in this background presentation is something to repeat that Julie had already said, that the kinds of definitions that you read in this working paper that we developed for the committee and for you is that they're well accepted and they're consensus-based. That is, the kinds of adjectives attached to unidisciplinary, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary are relatively well accepted and have been in common use in research that's been going on over the past several decades on what are these things, we know them when we see them, and what difference do they make. And we're still a long way toward answering those questions fully, of course. The purpose here is to ensure that the efforts of our committee and of this workshop are informed by the literatures on what these terms mean and focus on the challenge. Am I not getting too close? Okay. What these terms mean, especially when you think in terms of the purpose of this workshop, which is what are the challenges they present and the implications, and for combining inputs like concepts, theories, data, models, and methods from diverse disciplines. Rather than being preoccupied with some effort at precision of what these definitions are, we want to move on from that. We have a common vocabulary that most of us can accept, and our intent is to move on to foster new forms of research, problem-solving education, and organizational management that help enable convergent research processes. I'll just stay up here, Julie. So.
That sounds good. And then the Fred and Ginger show continues here. One thing that is very important to realize, too, just as David talked about the importance of having definitions that are based on consensus in the literature, is that they're not absolute. They're not airtight. And there certainly is no one-size-fits-all model of definitions. So one of the things we're going to be exploring in thinking about convergence and the relevance of these definitions is to be sensitive to the fact that integration, the boundaries sometimes will often blur, and certainly to not think that this continuum here, the spectrum that is painted there with the definitions that you've got there in the background materials, that they change over time too, temporally and spatially. There are important differences, so we need to be sensitive to context. We need to be sensitive to different types of collaboration as well. Now, when Dave and I first made up the graphic you've got there for the committee, and the committee vetted it, we had them in different categories. In fact, you could see that in Phil Sharp's visual. But we also, the longer we work with it, the more we blur those lines. So Dave is going to talk about what the implications of that blurring and other consequences. Then we will invite some questions that you might have.
This is the last point we want to make, so go ahead and put our slightly revised version of the piece that you see in your documents and what Phil put up there. There we go. Voila. And what you see is dotted lines among those 4 categories. So we should have had that in the first place. The fact is there is no clear distinction among these things, and that's just as well. There's increasing evidence that incorporation of inputs from diverse fields of inquiry increases the likelihood that breakthroughs occur. That's an assumption that we've been making for many years, and it's an assumption that underlies this workshop. But that doesn't mean that research that combines diverse inputs is on some kind of evolutionary or deterministic path. It's something we wish to foster, but it's not as if it's going to reach some plateau that is nirvana. Scientific advance has always been and will continue to be an incremental process. It combines a multitude of incremental advances in knowledge and their verification, no small piece, with occasional notable breakthroughs of many different origins. Serendipitous discovery, the light bulb in the head, eureka, integration of knowledge from diverse fields by individuals and by teams, and even other origins. So what we're talking about is only one source of breakthroughs. If you look at the origins of Nobel Prizes, you see the tremendous diversity that led to these breakthroughs. Our challenge, then, is to identify and understand the factors that influence outcomes of research that successfully integrates diverse inputs, whether they're interdisciplinary, whether they're transdisciplinary or convergent, whatever the label is. And moreover, uni, multi, inter, and transdisciplinary approaches may occur and undoubtedly will occur simultaneously in a field or in convergent initiatives because of the complex array of activities and institutional contexts that such initiatives embody.